Perfect. Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me okay? Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. There's so many of you. This is absolutely fantastic. I'm CLARA TRIBOUL. I'm head of analytics in an agency called Oliver. And I'd like to present myself as a data translator. Why a data translator? It's because I started my career in marketing and I pivoted towards data and analytics a little bit later. As you can probably hear, I also express myself in a second language, and I think that gives me absolutely unique opportunity to join different worlds together and to borrow some theories from certain worlds and bring them to the data world. Today, I want to talk to you about something I first heard of while working with some designers, and it's design thinking. Design thinking is something that I think we can use in our day-to-day life to solve data problems efficiently. So thank you very much for being here. So, in most of the businesses that I've worked with, problem solving kind of goes this way. You receive an initial input. Someone has an idea, someone brings a piece of insight, someone's nephew has seen something on TikTok. This is being brought to you, and if you're a little bit lucky, you're asked to run some analysis to confirm or infirm what has been given to you. If your analysis is positive and you realize that, yeah, cool, we can confirm this initial input, you have a solution, and the solution is put forward, and a dashboard is being built, a product is being released to market. These solutions can be big or small. Sometimes they are very, very big. And speaking of big, I wanted to talk to you about a little company called the Coca-Cola company, which I'm sure everybody has heard of. Picture this. Mid-80s, Coca-Cola has been dominating the market for absolute years. However, by the mid-80s, a competitor starts to rise, and this competitor is called Pepsi. Coke starts to lose some market share. To be precise, they lost 2.5% market share in 4 years. When you're called Coca-Cola, that represents $600 million. So that's quite a strong initial input, right? That's enough to make C-suite level people panic and go, right, we absolutely need to solve this. One of the core things that Pepsi was putting forward as a competitor of Coke is that their taste was so much better. So the executive at Coke went to the insights team and said, right, we want to develop a new formula, something that is better tasting. Let's improve our product's taste, right? Our consumers are going to really, really enjoy this. Let's develop a new product and let's have a little bit of a test, some blind tests with people tasting Pepsi, testing old Coke, testing new Cokes, testing different types of sodas. The blind tests were formal. The new Coke recipe was the best one by far. Everybody loved the taste of the sip test that they were doing. Fantastic, right? Let's go to market. And boy, did they go to market. They decided to build a massive marketing campaign, run some advertisement with Bill Cosby as the frontliner. It even made the news. And let's have a look. Now, can we guess how it's gone? It didn't go very well. It was an absolute disaster, to an extent that actually I was so surprised about when I did deep research on this. As you can see on the slides here, some people organized actual protests, some t-shirts was being printed. People were absolutely outraged by this new Coke replacing the old Coke. There's a lovely quote there from a gentleman who actually invested some of his personal retirement fund to build the campaign against the new Coke. And he's saying here that Coca-Cola has tied the drink to the very fabric of America. Apple pie, baseball, Statue of Liberty, and now they replace it with a new formula, and they tell us to just forget it. They have taken away my freedom of choice, and this is un-American. Exceptional, right? What Coca-Cola company has done there is that they've looked at, yes, some data points, the taste, how do we make a better taste? But they have forgotten about all the rest and about what Coca-Cola represented for their customers. They've asked the wrong question and run the right tests to answer the wrong question. There's a quote here from a lovely gentleman called Tim Brown, who's the author of Change by Design, a book about design thinking, that says, there is nothing more frustrating than coming up with the right answer to the wrong question. I don't know about you, but this quote heavily resonated with me when I've read it. As someone who's an analyst, I've been so many times in situations where a stakeholder comes to me and asks me, I need a dashboard, I need an answer to this, I need this, and I'm like, it feels wrong, but I can't exactly explain you how we can get to the right answer. And this is what I'm going to try to help you do today. The first bit here, and what Coke has not managed to do really well in the 80s, which I'm sure they do really well now, is finding the correct problem to solve. To be able to do that in design thinking, there is something called the double diamond methodology, something that I feel really close to, that I use every day in my work. So the first area that we want to focus on is designing the right thing, figuring out what is the thing we want to design there, what is the solution we want to put forward. So we start similarly than before. We have an initial input, someone has an idea, someone comes to you with a problem. The first thing you want to do is discover. Allow yourself to open your perspectives. Allow yourself to get lost in your data. I've worked with many, many analysts who kind of feel bad if they get lost in their data sets. This is, I believe, an absolutely necessary part of the process. You need to be able to look at your data, to observe things, and to allow yourself to lose some time, but it's not time lost, it's time invested. The second thing you want to do in a discovery phase is something I absolutely love doing, is kind of empathize and get close to your stakeholders. I'll give you an example. At Oliver, one of the things that we do is that we help companies find the right analyst to do the right job. And one of my very dear clients wanted to onboard a new senior analyst to their team. Of course, I sat down with the data team, I sat down with the executive, and I listened to them and listened to the problems they wanted to solve. But what I also did there is that I sat down with the marketing teams that were going to benefit from what my senior analyst was going to produce. I didn't really ask them exactly what they wanted, because they're not data experts. They're not going to be able to tell me, I want a dashboard that shows this, this, and that, and I want this data point structured in that way. But they were able to tell me what their day-to-day life looks like, what problems they were trying to solve, and what their frustrations were. And that's when I used my skills as a data translator to be able to go, okay, right. So what you want to be able to see are this, this, and this thing, and probably this sort of dashboard is going to be something that's a bit of a game changer for you. 1 year later, our senior analyst is loving her job, which is something that's really important to me as a manager. She's making a big difference, and the plan of action that we've put together after all of these user interviews is now delivering really, really well. Client is happy, analyst is happy, fantastic. And I really put that success to the discovery phase and the time I spent to talk to people. So obviously you can't explore forever, right? So at some point you need to narrow things down, and you need to move to your definition phase. So the key here is kind of to learn when to stop and to find the right help around you to refine your problem. So once you've explored, once you've understood your data, once you've understood who you're speaking to and who you're designing for, defining is absolutely key. 2 things you can do here. 1, find a data champion. Find someone in the business who's not necessarily a data person, but who's excited about it, to bounce ideas off. So use what you figured out in your discovery phase and talk to your data champions and go, right, I have this idea, what do you think? They're going to really help you rephrase things and reframe things. A really good output of a definition phase is to write a how might we statement. How might we achieve this, 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 and that? It's a little bit of a dull exercise, but believe me, it's super, super helpful because it's going to allow you to get to a defined problem. The outcome of this first area, this first bit of the diamond, is to be really, really clear on the problem that you want to solve. If you think of our example with Coca-Cola earlier, I think a how might we statement that they might have would have been, how might we create a fizzy drink that is better than our competitors? But was that the right question? I don't think that was the right question. And a really fun exercise to do is actually to think, What is the how might we statement that they could have written there? What is the right question they should have asked to get back to their lost 2.5% market share? So there we have it. A discovery phase, a definition phase, and a very clear problem statement. And then we get to our solution, right? Well, not just yet. I'm sure you have understood this is a double diamond methodology. We've had a look at the first diamond. Now let's have a look at the second diamond. The second diamond is about crafting the best possible answer. So once we've spent all of this lovely time figuring things out, now let's actually do stuff, right? So the second bit of the diamond is about designing the thing right. Designing the right thing, designing the thing right. How do we do this? Well, similarly as for the definition phase, we start by developing and we start by opening up. Allow yourself to craft things, to doodle. Don't be too attached to what things are going to look like or feel like in the end of the day. You want to allow yourself to explore a little bit. Here again, empathy, which is a core principle of design thinking, is absolutely key. Craft some space for test and learn. Put things in front of your users. One of the things I really like to do when I design dashboards, for example, is literally start on pen and paper. Take myself away from my computer, take myself away from the excitement of drilling into the data and go, hang on, what am I actually doing here? What is going to solve the problem that I've spent so much time to define before? And I will doodle things on pen and paper, and I will go to my stakeholders, to the people I'm crafting for, and go, what do you understand there? Does that look right to you? And you get really, really honest, really open feedback. That's super interesting for you to understand whether your solution that you're developing is the right answer to the question you've asked just before. Similarly as before, after opening, we want to start refining. The delivery phase is the fourth area of the diamond for you to be able to get to a delivered solution. Here, two things that are absolutely key, I think. The first one is put yourself in the shoes of the people who are going to receive what you have crafted. Whether you're a data engineer working on pipelines that's going to design something for a data scientist, whether you're an analyst building some dashboards for a marketer, whether you're even an insight analyst who's going to inform a product team on how to launch their product, think about how they work. Think about how they want to receive messages and use everything you've learned in the previous phases to understand how to craft for these people. Train them in the way that makes sense to them. Some people are going to like to have things written for them. Some people are going to like to have you physically sit down next to them. Some people are going to like a quick talk, but then be able to actually play with the things themselves. Think about that, because you can have the best question, the best answer, but if you don't deliver it in the right way to these people, it's never going to work. And I'm sure a lot of us have been in this situation where you're like, oh, but it was so good, but why are you not listening to me? Perhaps communicating in a way that makes a lot of sense to them is the best way to do that. Second thing here, leave some space for feedback. Even more than leaving some space for feedback, I would say craft some space for feedback. So when you launch your product, when you launch your solution, tell your stakeholders, I want to hear about you. I want to hear back when you use this new day-to-day in 1 week, 2 weeks, a month, a year. I want you to come back to me and tell me, actually, it would be amazing if I were able to break down this metric in this way. It would be amazing if this could load faster. You know, only your users are going to be able to come to you with the actual answers there. When I run some design sessions for people, I really like to actually plan phased approach, where my delivery is kind of a beta version. And then I make sure that there's a secondary phase of development that is already planned from the get-go to integrate the feedback that we will inevitably get after the launch. The main tenet of design thinking is empathy for the people you're designing for. I'm sure you have understood throughout this double diamond methodology that getting close to people and getting close to the people who are going to be at the receiving end of whatever you craft is absolutely key. This quote comes from David Kelly, who's an engineer, who's a professor, who's essentially one of the founding fathers of design thinking, who's a fantastic man. So here we have all the core principles to keep in mind. What I wanted to mention to you is how to find balance. Because this is, I've got 10 minutes left, which is great. It's how to find balance. So this is kind of the theory behind everything, but over the years I've observed quite a few ways where things can go a way or another. A typical way, and I think it's what Coca-Cola did before, is kind of a rushed discovery. This tends to happen with businesses who are very short on time, who are very short sometimes on budgets, who want to get things going and just like, whatever, let's stop talking, let's get to the solution. As data professional, wherever we sit in the business, whether with analysts, whether we're at the top of the chain when it comes to management, it's within our power to challenge this. And for me, the main reason behind challenging this is that if you rush your discovery and you end up with an undefined problem, you're going to spend so much time, so much money, so many resources in delivering the wrong thing, and then you're going to have to fix everything. Coca-Cola had to bring back the old version of Coke 3 months later. They brought it back alongside their new product, which made their market share go even further down. They scrambled to get back to the way they were before. So believe me, if they had spent some time before to actually think about the problem they wanted to solve, it would have been a much happier ending for everybody. On the other hand, very careful businesses, very thoughtful businesses I've been part of, people who are very human-led, sometimes have a tendency to be a little bit overbearing when it comes to the discovery. They want to sit down everybody around the table, have very long conversations, take everybody's point of view into account. You can't possibly do that. And if you do that, and if you spend too much time on the discovery phase, you're going to end up with an overcomplicated problem. You're going to want to solve too many things, please too many people, and you're going to end up with a poorly defined solution. The key here is to find balance. It's within our power. I find that this framework of thought works really well with analytical minds. It works very well with me. I really like to bucket things. I imagine there's a few of you who really like to bucket things as well. And sometimes when I'm working through problems in the business, I really like to go back to this and go, hang on, what phase are we in? What are we actually doing right now? Why are we having this conversation? This helps me have clarity of thought, but this also helps me speak the same language as my stakeholders. So when we are a bit caught up in solving problems and we cannot find a solution, I like to bring that on screen and go, right, briefly, this is the best way to find a solution to something. I think right now we're here. And so if we're in the definition phase, there's no point going on a tangent on, but what about what if? No, we've understood, we've explored. Let's refine together now. And that's really, really helpful to move things forward. If there's one slide I want to leave you with today, it's this one. So for every step of the diamond, there's practical things that you can take away, practical things that you can do. So to summarize there, in the discovery phase, allow yourself to explore the data. Be okay with getting lost a little bit and reading up on things and falling down rabbit holes. Secondly, bring your users in from that phase. Organize user interviews, sit down with people. Defining phase, work with data champions. Find people in your business who care about data, who are going to be excited about what you do, and talk with them. Write how might we statement. Summarize your findings. Don't trust your brain to have clarity of thought until you've been able to put it on paper, until you've been able to summarize it in one key sentence. Development phase, write smart goals. Start by, we have this problem, we want to find the solutions. What are the goals? What are we going to try to achieve here? This is going to help you phase what you're doing. Test and learn. Develop some solutions, doodle, be okay with not being very precise, and again, empathize and involve your stakeholders there. Delivery phase, train your users with empathy, think about who they are, think about how they like to work, think about what functions for them, and finally, craft a space for feedback. If you can, even plan in your roadmap a place for a second wave of your product that includes people's feedback. The final bit is that I wanted to say that these two worlds of design and of data can join up pretty nicely. And I think there's a lesson here for us to remember that there's creative inspiration to be found. for data professionals. I often find the designers, creatives, and analysts are actually a lot more similar than you think, because we end up facing the same sort of problems. And briefly, at Oliver, the agency I'm part of, this is what we do every day. We function by providing some data-informed strategy, building and activating what we do, and building some always-on optimization strategies. We simplify the complex to solve a variety of data challenges. We're organized around 3 teams. The analytics team that I have the pleasure of heading up, we really focus on audiences in my team. We focus on analytics and culture. We're here to help you understand why people do what they do. We also have a fantastic data strategy team that are here to provide data consultancy and CRM consultancy, and a brilliant performance marketing team that are extremely data-led and are really good at search, paid social, and dynamic creative optimization. All of this is backed up and supported by a plethora of technologies that we have experts for within the business. And if you'd like to talk to me about any of this, please do reach out. I'm CLARA TRIBOUL. I'm head of analytics at Oliver Agency, and this is my email, and you can find me on LinkedIn. Thank you very much. I think we have a bit of space for questions, potentially. 2 minutes? 3 minutes. Does anybody have a burning question? Aha.
Is that on? Yeah. Hi there. In the example of the organisation that likes to overthink things a lot, what sort of strategies or tips have you got for sort of cutting through that?
Yeah, it's a very good question. It's a very good question. It's not always easy, is it? Talking to people and being able to bring them back to a framework of thought sometimes helps. Bringing people back to what we want to be able to do. So asking really open questions like why, what, who. Be the why person in the company would be my recommendation there. And empathize, acknowledge that everybody has different feelings, different thoughts about things, but that perhaps we want to prioritize certain things. So techniques of prioritization, important and urgent, help there as well. So recognizing how people feel, recognizing what they think, and saying that's fantastic, however, perhaps this is a higher priority because from a business point of view, that makes more sense. That's how we do it.
Hello. Of the 4 stages, which one do you think is the hardest to get right? And what would you say are some of the kind of common pitfalls that people make?
Interesting. I'm going to give you a very analyst answer. It depends. It depends of where you are. It depends of who you are. Personally, I find the crafting bit a bit scary because I kind of want to do everything at the same time. But as we've seen in the unbalanced examples, it will depend on the company that you're in, it will depend on the people you work with. So perhaps something that you can do is observe that and have a little think. What in the way I work and what in the company I work in is the hardest for people right now? Great. Is there a final question? Brilliant. Well, perfect. I think we're just on time. So thank you very much, everybody. And if you have any questions or like to talk, please do reach out. Thank you.